Hi, everyone. Hello and welcome. We are going to be making some awesome jewelry today with UV resin. And I'm so glad you joined us because this is a very special class. We are teaching a brand new technique in this class that we've never done before, and it's very special and very you can use it in a lot of different applications. Um, my name is Stephanie Menor. I'm here representing Blue Moon Studio. Let's make some jewelry together. Let's switch to the top-down camera and take a look at some of the things that we are going to make, which is for New Year's Eve. We've got this champagne bottle. So cute. Here's the back of it. And these champagne glass earrings. These are just so cute. And what's unique about them is that they are completely scratch built. UV resin typically is used with molds or with bezels. So you like kind of have a starting point. But these projects feature a new technique where you are building up from scratch. And that has to start with, or not necessarily, but it helps to start with a template. One of the folks from Blue Moon, if you can put this template in the chat just to make sure that you have it, you're going to need this to work on these projects together. So this template includes the outline of the champagne bottle and the outline of the flutes. These are just outlines to help us make that shape because, like I said, we're scratch building it. And then down here we have the champagne labels. All right, so to get started, let's talk about supplies a little bit here. The supply that we're using is UV resin. Everything we're using today is sold at Michaels and Michaels.com in the jewelry making department. And so UV resin is the star of the show. This pours out and it is a liquid that quickly hardens and turns to a glass-like plastic when it is under a UV lamp. So this is our UV lamp. Hit the button, you can see that comes on and off. And we have some tints here. We're going to be making a dark green for our champagne bottle. And then we have all sorts of fun stuff, some glitters and pearls and things. We're going to be using all of that and some things that I will bring out along the way. So if you have your template, we are going to get started here with the champagne flute. So there's a lot of different ones here. They are all exactly the same. You are going to need a piece of this special resin tape. So you don't want to use like mailing tape or anything like that. This is a special resin tape that's sold with the resin. And I'm going to cut a piece of it. I already have glitter stuck to my fingers. Okay, so here's our tape. We're going to put this, move this up. We're going to put this sticky side up. And before I set that down, I'm going to add some Scotch tape to help me stick it down. And I'm just going to carefully place the Scotch tape so that it doesn't go over where my champagne flute is. And we want to set that down on the top and on the bottom. Really make sure that that is not going to move. Okay, so this blue part is sticky up and the Scotch tape is sticky down. Okay, that's the first part. Now we are going to make it's like kind of custom making our own bezel. So you can see here a little closer, that bezel around the side is made of rhinestone cup chain, also sold at Michaels. And through this process, you can make any shape that you want. Here's a look at that chain. This is 2mm rhinestone cup chain with clear glass rhinestones. So I'm going to show you two techniques. One is kind of the standard way of doing it. And the second one, I kind of discovered as I was working through a bunch of these projects to be a little bit easier for you. So I'm going to show you both ways and you can decide which one is easier. So let me zoom you in. We're going to get all up tight on my cuticles. There we go. Okay. Move this out of the way, straighten you out. Okay. So here's our cup chain. I also am going to be using a wood stick. You may find that using tweezers is a little easier. So the tool of your choice. And as we look at our cup chain, you can see that it flexes. So it can, see how I can move it so that those rhinestones are really close together or far apart. So it's got that little ability to slide along these, it's like sliding along a track. And so keep that in mind because we want, as we lay this down, for there to be no space between our rhinestones. So we want to take up all that slack. All right, so we are going to lay this first rhinestone down up at the top. And it is hard because this blue thing is sticky. So the rhinestones are going to want to stick to it. Your fingers are going to want to stick to it. But we're going to show you some workarounds. So I'm getting it somewhat in the right area and then using my wood stick to lay it down. And we want to lay down and push up. Hope that it's magnified enough that you can see each individual rhinestone. We want to push up each rhinestone along that track. And notice that I'm going to the outside of this black line. That will become really important when we get down to this part where the black lines are very close to one another. In order for this earring not to crack, you need to leave a space in between there. So we are snugging up each rhinestone and laying it down. And notice how I'm holding the chain. I'm kind of holding it up off of that tape. That is going to be what you want to do too, because they want to stick down. And then even once they're down, I can kind of still like nudge them a little bit. I was going a little bit off track here, but I want to nudge it over so that it's to the left of that line. And once I have a good number of them, then I can just kind of press down. Now they're kind of set down on that tape. And let's keep going. And because it has this kind of a leeway because of these rhinestones being on a track, it can easily go around curves. And I can see a hair right here. So let me get that out of the way. Come here, you. Did I get it? I think I got it. All right, again, keeping the rhinestone, the tail of the rhinestone kind of up in the air as I carefully try to set these down. And they're going to get stuck. You're going to have to lift them up. And just going one by one. A lot of times when we do these classes, if you've been to our classes before, we tend to do a lot of projects because this is a very kind of quick material. So we can do in the space of an hour, we can get through a lot of projects. This class is a little bit different because we're doing two projects that are a little more involved. Okay, so see how I'm laying that along there? And if some of these rhinestones look like they're getting out of line, I can kind of nudge them over and then press it down. And the first, I don't know, 20 rhinestones that you do, you're going to be thinking to yourself, goodness gracious, I do not want to do this. This is terrible. But once you get the hang of it, it actually goes pretty quickly. All right, so this is going to be my last rhinestone. So I can actually cut. This is where you want to have a high quality cutter. See the tips of these is just, it's sharp. I can vertically hold this and cut that between exactly where I want to cut. And then just perfect it and then press down. Okay. So I've got one side of it done. I told you that I'd show you two techniques. So this is, I don't know, this is what, like kind of the dry technique where you're sending it down on dry tape. The tape is sticky, but it's dry. This other technique that I want to show you is one that I found it kind of made it a little bit easier, where I'm going to take my UV resin and create just a really thin line directly on top of this black line. Trying to keep it as thin as possible. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side of the wine glass. And this wet method, it stops the stickiness so that this rhinestone can glide. We want glide in here. So we can like just place them a little easier. But don't forget, we want to snug them up, snug it up. So still kind of placing them one by one, but they just glide easier. And making sure that we are outside of that black line. And you really want to take your time here. So I'm looking at the top to make sure that it's even with my other side of the glass. And then I'm just making sure that these rhinestones are to the right of the black line. Right? Okay. And I can see that this is going to be my last rhinestone right here. And I'm going to cut it again using my cutters. And it helps if you do it vertically like this. Then you can really see which one you are cutting. But you need a high quality like wire cutter to be able to do that. And now we just make sure this is exactly where we want those, because once we put the light on, they are locked in place. All right. So final look. Okay. So now we turn the UV light on. And now this light is going to run for a minute and turn off automatically. But actually don't even need to run it the whole minute. This little bit of resin will catch within the first 25 seconds or so. And so it'll just set those in place, and then we can continue going around. And I know we have a small group with us today, so thank you guys for joining. Is anyone crafting along with us? Always curious to know. Since this is a little more of an in-depth project. All right, that's been about, I don't know, 30 seconds. Okay, so those are on there. So you can see the difference between the dry side and the wet side. The dry side is still just stuck down with the stickiness of the tape. It's not stuck down with resin yet, but I want to show you both. And now we put a top on it. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep this centered for you guys. And I'm going to use this sort of wet method for both. Where did my little bit of, here it is. Sorry, I lost my chain. So that top needs 4 rhinestones. So if you already know your rhinestone count, you can kind of pre-cut that off of the main chain. And I cut that in the wrong place and cut directly through a rhinestone. So let's do that better. And for the bottom, I'm going to cut 5. Tweezers can also help with these little pieces. And I'm placing this one between the ones that I've already placed. And hopefully it will fit. Okay, I'm switching sides because this one has a little tail on it. Maybe that'll work better on this side. Okay, did I do it? Here. Mm, there are shadows with all of these lights that I have. So I'm like going cross-eyed trying to make sure, is that a shadow I see or is that a misalignment? I think we're about there. Let's add this bottom piece. And notice I kind of like run it through the resin so that it has a little bit of that liquid on it. And then use my wood stick to put it in place. All right, so let's go for it. Let's lock those down for another little 30-second pre-cure here. And then we basically have our frame. And then we have to fill in our frame. The first layer we're going to do is just clear. That is just to lock everything in place, give us a good foundation for us to start building up all of the other stuff that's going to go in here. So the stem is going to stay clear. To make it look like champagne, we're going to use gold flakes and little champagne bubbles of plastic pearls. These pearls have no hole. They're special, like pearl. They're not cabochons, but they are special for filler for resin type projects. All right. First layer is just resin. Because remember, this this piece over here, which this one has kind of gotten misaligned. This side over here is still dry. So we are going to put some resin and I want to drag it down the stem. And I'm especially making sure that I make contact along this left wall because that's the dry side. And again, you can try both methods and see what works for you. All right, looking good. And this one we're going to cure for at least 1 minute. The other thing I didn't mention is it's nice to have a paper towel to the side. I'm always using that to wipe off my wood stick in between usages. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this does have a timer on it. It's going to run for a minute and then turn off automatically. I'll probably just because it's clear, probably only needs 1 minute in this application. It's a clear, thin coat, is 1 minute. You'll see for the later coats that I add, if they have glitter or if they have color, which we are going to be doing some dark green color for the bottle, I'll be curing those for longer. Because any darkness, glitter, anything you have blocking the light means you have to cure it longer. Okay, so this is what we have. And now, I mean, I think this is the fun part, the decorating part. So we are going to use these glitter flakes, these pearls, and you can always throw in some regular old fine glitter if you want. I'm just going to put just a little bit there. This will help them stick down. Helps if you stick your wood stick in there and then I just grab some a little bit at a time and start placing these in. And we want to make it look like it's full of champagne. So down here, I want to follow the curve that a glass would naturally have if you're looking at a glass of champagne. And then making it a relatively flat top because that is what it would look like. Okay, looking good. Let me wipe my stick off here. And now we just need those pearls. And I do want to put a tiny little dot so the pearls have something to stick to. And you can add as many as you want. These two pearls are stuck together, so they're just going to have to live together. Okay, and now we're going to lock that in place. And then all that's left is putting a top coat on, and then we're going to remove it. Very, very carefully remove it. And then if we want, we can do an additional coat to the back. So if I look at our example earring here, this is the front. If we look at it from the side, it's not that thick, but I can tell that there was an extra coat that went over the back, and that just strengthens it, kind of thickens it a little bit. And while we do that, I will just talk a little bit about UV resin in general. So today you can see we're putting glitter and plastic and paper. We're going to be using a paper label, but there's so many different materials that work so well with resin, and maybe some ones that you won't think about. So I'm going to let that go again. I have some bangles here, so you can make bangle bracelets too. This one has some polymer clay fruit slices. This one has more glitter flakes. This one we used some letter beads to make some little phrases. You are strong, you are amazing. This one has little dried flower buds. This one is just glitter, but done in 3 colors. All of these use the same bangle mold. This one uses little candy sprinkles. This one uses some tints and some glitter. And this one uses seed beads. Okay, let's finish this one up. So now where we're at is we've done one clear coat. We've done a coat to cement all of these glitters and cool stuff in place. So now we need a top coat. Just going to add that much and then spread it out. And like I said, this is strengthening the earring. It's thickening it. It's making sure all of these pearls and flakes are just not going to go anywhere when you wear these. So I'm bringing it right to the edge, but not over the rhinestones. And we want to make sure that we fill up the stem. Okay. Paper towel. Where'd you go? Okay. Here we go. New paper towel. All right. Let's cure that. And then we are going to pull it off of there. And I'll show you what that looks like. In the meantime, though, I am going to cut my champagne label. So on the template, you've gotten that out of the chat. You'll see there's a ton of champagne labels, so you can make these to your heart's delight. I'm just going to cut one of these out. And this is just printed on regular, like, printer paper on a regular printer, an office jet, inkjet type printer. So there's nothing special about the paper or the ink or anything. So similarly, you can imagine that you can print out just about anything. A picture, an image that you find on the internet, and that will work in the resin. So let's keep this aside. We'll need that in a few minutes. Okay, so that went for a minute.
Stephanie, Debbie's wondering, are any type of pearls okay to use in this project?
Yeah, glass pearls, acrylic pearls. Either one would work fine. Can you guys still see me okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Because my screen went black, but as long as you can see, that's good.
We can see you.
Awesome.
Zoe left a funny comment. She said, I guess it's okay that we don't check for air bubbles in this particular project.
You know what? Air bubbles would look awesome and way authentic. So if you can somehow encourage the bubbles, that'd be good. And in fact, now I think about it, you can encourage the bubbles by shaking the bottle of resin, which we normally say, no, 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 don't do that. But if you're going to shake, now's the time to shake it on this project. Okay, so I'm actually going to remove this from the paper because we do not need that silhouette anymore. And this is what we have. So at this point, we need to separate it from this tape. And you want to be very careful doing that, especially when we get down to the stem part. And you will notice that the tackiness of this tape has significantly increased. And that will happen. That's why you want to start with this special tape, which is a low tack polyester tape that's made for resin crafts, because it will get a lot thicker. Not thicker, stickier. So I'm just holding on to the top of it and just trying to have patience pulling this off. It's much better to hold this and pull the tape off than to try to pull the wine glass or the champagne glass off of the tape, because you may break it. All right, so this is what we have. On our dry side, there's not much to be done. That was dry. On this side, you see we have a little bit of extra resin, which can just come off very easily. You can use your same wire cutters and just kind of clip that off, and it separates pretty easily. And anywhere else you see some extra bits. In fact, did you see what I did? I just held on to it and pulled, and it just kind of like ripped that off perfectly. Okay, so at this point, here's the side view. You can add another coat of resin to the back, strengthen. I'm not going to show you that process because I think that you can do that. But we need a way to turn this into an earring. So we are going to use a hand drill. You can also use an electric drill if you have one, but this bit is 1.5 mm. And let's just find where we want that to go. And start drilling. .5 mm is just the perfect size hole for the top. Let me brush this away. Okay, we're going to need two things to turn this into an earring. We're going to need some jump rings. And in this case, we're going to need two jump rings. It's a little bigger and one that's a little smaller. And something that I rarely talk about when we make earrings. We make a lot of earrings, but when you are making earrings, if you want to be professional about it, you need to think about how that earring fits onto the ear. So in this case, you can see that our jump ring that goes through is perpendicular to the earlobe, while the use of a second jump ring allows that jump ring to sit parallel to the ear. But doing two instead of one allows the ear wire to sit into the ear and lets the earring face outward. Okay, so I hope that you can imagine what I'm saying here. But that is the only reason we're using two jump rings, is just to make sure that the earring faces the plane. It's parallel to the plane of your face, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So let's add one jump ring. We're going to add the second jump ring and close this up. And then that smaller second jump ring, open that. Well, first we need an ear wire. That would help. And you can use any kind of ear wire that you want. I'm just going to use the traditional French ear wire or ear hook. I'm just turning this so that I can get to where the break in the jump ring is. Let's open that up and place our ear wire. And there we go. So cute. So versatile too, because remember, we just used a template and made it into the shape of a wine glass. This could be in the shape of anything. I'm going to show you a variation of this. I made this one earlier today because for those of you that are live with us, it is mid-December and I'm thinking about Christmas. So I wanted to do a wine earring. So instead of using gold, I used some glittery red. And then I wanted it to look like Christmas, so I added some rhinestones and this little sprig of greenery. But as I was doing this, I thought, gosh, you could make a mojito, you could make it green glitter with a little lime wedge. I mean, the possibilities are endless just in the mixed alcoholic beverages world. Okay, so moving on to our champagne bottle. So I've already done this part, and I used the dry method to do this part. Pay no attention to what's happening here. This was one of my other practices. So I've already laid these rhinestones down. I've just tacked them down. So I want to have another look at this to make sure that I don't have any of these rhinestones wildly out of place. And we're ready to put our first coat down, which is always going to be clear. Oh, there's a bubble. The bubbles aren't important on the bottle one though. We really needed those on the glass. So we want to move this resin around, make contact with every single rhinestone. You can see that the resin itself is like self-healing. Like if I go like this, like it'll just flow back to its natural state. Really more concentrated on the edges here to make sure that it's filling in any little gaps between those little rhinestone cups. Okay. And we're going to cure that for a minute. And I'm going to move this off to the side so that can cure over here while I mix up a color. So to mix a color, you need a silicone mixing bowl. And I did not mention in the beginning, but this blue thing that you guys have been looking at, this is silicone mat. This is just protecting my work surface so that I don't get resin everywhere. Silicone, resin doesn't stick to silicone when it's cured. So That's why a lot of our tools and things are silicone. So here I want to bring out my tints. I'm going to pause this for a minute because I need to kind of move that off to the side while we do this. Okay, so resin goes into the cup first. And I'm eyeballing here. I know that I need enough for a thin coat over that whole bottle. So let's say that that's about that much. And you do want to give the tints a shake. Add 2 drops of yellow and 1 drop of blue. This blue is especially very concentrated. I can add more if I need it. So let's just do that and see what that gets us. See how concentrated that is? And yes, I'm glad I didn't add more blue because this is like pretty much the color that we want. Just making sure that's all incorporated. Okay, let's bring our paper back. And at this point, you do want to make sure that your paper is not curled in any way because that curl will stay with your earring. So just make sure it is sitting flat. You can set something down on top of it and it's curling slightly like mine is. All right, so we are going to do a coat of green. And I can just pour it directly from the cup. Don't want to do too much. Again, encouraging that to go where it needs to go. And then it doesn't need to go up the bottle. We're going to be adding glitter to the top of the bottle. So I'm just taking that a little bit up the neck. That is going to be covered in glitter. Okay. It's that simple. Now this one I'm going to cure for 2 minutes because of the dark color. And I'm going to keep my little bowl off here to the side, far away from the light. I don't want that to be by the light because I might use that for something else. And so that little bowl of resin that we mixed up, that will stay liquid until it's exposed to UV light. So I can keep that on, covered under a piece of paper or something on my desk and use it tomorrow, next week, next month. Um, and it will be ready for me when I'm ready for it. So while that's going, let me get another cup. A little mini cup here, and I'm just gonna, did that go for 1 minute or 2? I can't remember. I have a little mini cup here. I'm just gonna add some resin to it off camera. We just need a tiny little bit. Trying to keep this away from the light. And we're going to add some fine glitter to that. So I'm just creating a little gold glitter resin. And again, shielding it from the light, but stirring it up. If you are looking for an item that has a lot of different things for you to play around with resin. I highly recommend this item. It's called the Mega Filler Kit. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got some glitters, but also some like confetti style glitters, the flakes. It's got dried flowers. It's got polymer clay, little slices, and it's got some really small little metal charms. And those pearls that we used in the champagne flute are in here. So this is a great buy if you want to try a little bit of everything. Okay, so here's the gold that I just mixed up. Before we put that, we need to use a little wire to create kind of like where the end of our foil, because this is where the foil goes on a champagne bottle. So we're going to create a barrier for the foil using wire. So let's look at our example. This is what we're doing here. So that wire, we're just creating a little U shape for right here. So let's do that. So I'm cutting a piece. It's about 3/4 of an inch, let's say. And I'm finding an object to wrap it around. Um, Looking at the end of my pliers here. Oh, and I just threw it across the room. Let's do that again. In fact, I'm going to do it before I cut. These pliers are not exactly the right shape. Looking for something that I can just use to bend wire around. Gets us partway there. Trying to create more of like a slightly like a V shape. Kind of like that. And let's cut that. Let's cut it straight. That was very uneven. Okay. Right, let's see how this looks on there. I feel like it needs to be more V-shaped. So I'm just playing with this wire with my pliers to get the shape that I want. Yep, I think that's it. I like it. So before I start using my gold glitter, I'm just going to kind of tack this piece down with a little bit of clear because I don't want that glitter when I pour it into this area to start migrating everywhere. And the best way I know to stop that is to kind of cement this in place like that. And again, just giving that about 20 seconds. Here's that gold glitter with resin that I mixed up off camera. And we are going to use it to fill this area up here. Okay. And before I cure that, I want to put a single pearl in just for decoration. And make sure my glitter is just perfect. Okay. You can see how this is coming together. Do you see the vision? Because I'm seeing it. I'm having an amazing time. This class is so fun. We do so many UV resin classes where we're using the same molds, the same bezels over and over again. But in this technique, you can create anything. And when I say anything, I'll show you another little something that I made earlier today. This is an earring that I made. Um, with spam, and this is slightly different technique because I started with a printed material. If we have time at the end, I'll just show you how to do that, but the basics are the same. It's just that instead of working on a piece of tape, I'm actually working on a printed little spam thing. I'll show you. I just printed that out, did my edges, and filled the middle in with resin, then cut it out. So it's super simple. It's really up to your own imagination here. I can see down here we had a little bit of spillage, but hopefully I'll be able to just clip that off. And I'm actually going to yeah, it was still a little bit of liquid on there, so I don't think the light was getting all the way to the bottom of the champagne bottle. So let's just make sure that that is cured. The champagne bottle is pretty big, so we are making it into a necklace pendant. Of course, you could make it two of these and make them earrings. Here's the back. Okay, so now we are going to add our little label here that I printed out. And I didn't do a very good job at cutting that out perfectly. You can really see it once you put it on a dark background. So let's just make sure that all the little white edges are cut off. Of course, you could use, if you didn't want to print something out here, you could use a sticker, like just a gold star sticker would do it. That would get the point across that this is a bottle of champagne. And then we're going to put resin on top. Now you will find when you use resin with printed paper of any kind that it will darken the paper. Oh, that left a nice bubble there. It'll darken the paper, like it makes it a little transparent. You can see that happening. I'm actually going to encourage that to happen so that it is soaked all the way across. And the way to avoid that is printing this label on a much thicker paper can help to avoid that, but I kind of like the darkness. It makes it look like it's a very old vintage. Let's hear it. And I've spilled my little extra green over here. So let me just do some triage. And we are going to be wrapping it up soon. So if you have any burning questions, now is your time to ask them. But unfortunately, during this, my monitor has died. Like the one that is facing me is just been a blank screen here. So I can't see any of your questions at the moment. So if there are any burning questions from this group that the Blue Moon has, you can just shout them out at me. But just know that I'm not ignoring anything that you've been putting in the comments. It's just that I can't see it.
Pam has a question. She's wondering, with UV resin, do we need to wear a mask to keep from inhaling anything?
Okay, so yes, we get this question a lot. You can see I'm not wearing a mask. I'm also not wearing gloves. I've been working with this material for many years, and I um I personally don't wear a mask and gloves. I also don't wear gloves when I do the dishes or like scrub the floor. So that's just my personal preference. But if you have sensitive skin, yes, wear gloves. If you're worried about fumes, yes, wear a mask. But in general, you want to be working in a well ventilated area with some air circulation and that. But it's up to you. So I'm just kind of moving this around. I want to make sure that light is hitting all of it. Okay, this is what we have. Oh, we did get a little bubble down here. That happens very rarely. I didn't see that bubble before we started to cure it, but there is a bubble there that is just now going to live permanently on this bottle. Okay, so now we want to start pulling this away. And it looks like I do still have some wet down there. Now, I don't know if the light just wasn't getting down there, but before I pull that off, I do want to cure it. I'd rather cure it um, than deal with any gloppiness. So I'm not sure why that bottom corner is giving me trouble. Maybe it's the way I had the light positioned. I'm not sure. We're just going to cure that. And I'm just holding it down to make sure that it does not move. So as I'm waiting to do this and just wrapping up, I will tell you that we do UV resin classes and polymer clay jewelry classes 3 times a month. And this is our very last class for December. So thank you for joining us. This has been super fun. But check out michaels.com in the classes and events page. That's where you'll see, well, that's where you signed up for this one, but that's where you'll see all of our future classes. And the ones for January are up. They're super cute. So you can check those out. I find the easiest way to find us is to filter by jewelry classes. We always submit, we do jewelry. We're a jewelry making company. Um, so you want to filter by jewelry, you kind of easily find the next classes. If you're interested in joining us again, we try to keep it fresh and new every time. All right, so that really, once I pressed down, it really spilled out there, but that should be cured. And let's clean that up. But first, let's remove it from the tape. Yeah, I think I see what's happening here is I got a little bit ahead of myself. Did not allow for it to cure all the way through. That's okay. I'm going to turn it over. So do as I say, not as I do. I said that dark colors need longer to cure. Then I didn't do that. So make sure you're careful with that. Anything that is blocking that UV ray is going to block the cure. So you want to make sure that that is cured all the way. We didn't have that problem with this earring because it was all clear. So clear resin cures so much faster, more than twice as fast. Yeah. Okay, so doing just a little bit of cleanup here. So unfortunately, we have a little champagne spill, but let's clean this up. It also caused a little bit of a shadowing here, you can see. But had I taken the proper time, this would not have happened. But there is our champagne bottle. Let me bring out our other things, including our little spam that I made earlier and our Christmas wine. And we are going to wrap it up here. So I want to thank you for joining us. Please join us again in our January classes, and we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot, guys.